Hi friends, it's Tiana here today, and today we're doing another free sewing tutorial. Today we're going to be sewing the Connie V-neck ruffle hem top by Tiana's Closet. I know I've been sewing a lot of Tiana's Closet pattern lately, but she's got so many good ones. How could I not, okay? This one is super cute. It's obviously a V-neck top that's got like a flowy bottom. I love the fact that this one can be made with some really pretty finishes like tassels on their sleeve or embroidery bodice. So cute. So anyway, we're gonna get started. Today I'm going to be using this double gauze fabric for this pattern. It's a woven fabric. I did not get any of like the embroidered detailed fabric or anything like that, but I was thinking that maybe when I'm done, I could try to figure out a way to embroider like maybe some flowers on it or something, like hand embroider. I think that would be so gorgeous. Might be something I'll look into. I've seen some people do it and I'm obsessed with it. I think it's beautiful. I think it would be so cute on this. So maybe that might be something that I'll work on another time, maybe on another video. That would be fun. Anyway, let's get started. Okay, now if you have been watching any of my lives, I have been kind of going live when I cut my fabric, when I prep the pattern for another sew, even when I was taping my pattern. That has been so much fun. So make sure that you subscribe to my channel so you always get notifications when I'm live, and you can also watch those replays. I plan on going live more often because that has been so much fun to go live and do some of these projects live with you while you're with me and we're talking. Anyway, okay, so to get started, I will remind you of this. On Tiana's Closet website, you can find a lot of free patterns. The one thing is with the free patterns, you do not get the picture instructions. You just get kind of like a basic bare bones instructions of how to sew the pattern. So this is the reason why I love doing this sewing tutorials, just to help you with that. So one of the things that they instruct you to do is the first thing is to go ahead and serge or finish off the edges of all your pieces with a serger or a zigzag stitch on your sewing machine. And this is because when you're sewing with a woven fabric, the threads of the fabric can tend to fray, and you don't really want that to fray on you. So serging or finishing off the edges of your fabric really will help that. You can do it a couple different ways. My sewing machine, my serger, my Baby Lock Accolade has a chain stitch option, and I've shown this to you before on my channel, where it does a chain stitch and a serge edge at the same time. So you could do that. There's also the option of what I'm gonna do today, just gonna serge all the pieces around all the edges. And the reason I'm doing that is because I'm running low on cones. I don't have enough to thread my chain stitches and everything like that, so I'm just gonna do that. And then the third option is to go ahead and when you're sewing, you can sew your straight stitch and then at the edge of it, then finish the raw edge together. So sometimes I do it that way, sometimes I do it with my chain stitch, sometimes I do it the way I'm gonna do it today. I felt like serging all the edges. I don't know. There's something nice and soothing about just sitting in front of the serger and just going for it without having to, not putting anything together. You're just serging. I don't know. Does anybody else feel that way? Maybe it's just me. All right, I'm gonna go serge all these edges and then we'll come back and start putting it together. All right, friends, edges are finished. And if I look like I've been crying, it's because I got myself sidetracked with Instagram Reels, and we all get on Instagram Reels and cry for strangers on the internet. So that's what that was all about. Comment below, let me know if you're one of those. Anyway, so anyway, I already serged the edges of my fabric, and as you can see, it's a little wavy, and the reason why is because this is a double gauze fabric, and so it gets a little bit stretched out sometimes. That'd be fine. Once I give it a steam, it'll lay flat and nice. I won't worry about that. Especially because this is a loose fitting pattern, so I don't think that's anything that I need to worry about. So what I did is I grabbed my pattern piece and I cut out my piece where my dart is gonna go. I have two lines here because I printed out two different sizes and I decided to go with the medium size, but that's why you have two lines here. And then you need to make sure which one's your right side and the wrong side of your fabric. And I marked that by putting a little pin on my fabric, on my pieces. That way I don't get confused later when I'm sewing them together. I'm gonna turn my fabric to the wrong side. I'm gonna grab my pattern piece. I'm gonna place it right over my fabric, and I'm going to mark here where my dart is. Mark that dart. I'm gonna mark it with a water soluble marker here. Okay, so then what I like to do is I like to grab that, pull it out, get a pin, and I'm gonna go from one side of the line to the other side of the line. And I'm sure it's hard for you to see that, but what I do is I go from the line that I marked over to the other side to kind of help me with this pin. It kind of guides me where I'm going to sew up that dart. So go in from one side and then go out on the other side where I marked that line with my water soluble, or really sometimes I use just like Crayola washable markers. Those work just as fine. All right, so now I've got it right there, and I'm gonna go to my sewing machine. I start off on this side, the inside, and sew all the way down to the bottom, leaving a long tail to go ahead and tie off here on the end. Don't back stitch, just leave a tail because we wanna go back and do like a little knot, but not a really tight knot because we don't want it to pucker. I'm gonna do the same on the other side. And so this is what the front will look like. This is, I mean the back, and this is the front. We won't see that. We'll just have like a dart there. I think I said I started from the inside. I start from the outside. I don't know what I was thinking when I said I started from the inside. We start from the outside. As you get closer to the inside, you want to lower that stitch length. And leave a little tail so you can tie that off. All right, so at my iron, I kind of give it a little steam up and down to kind of, you know, make it flat. With this fabric, I don't give it a ton of steam because, you know, this has like a wrinkled look, so I don't really want it to come apart. I mean, like to be flat. And then I'm gonna tie a couple of knots here at the front center of that dart. Not super tight, but just enough that my thread is not gonna come loose. All right. Then I'm gonna grab my two fronts and I'm gonna face them right sides together. And here at the front, there's like a little, just a little piece right here. It's not very big. You're going to match up because you have the right sides together here. They match front and back, I mean the two fronts. And you're gonna match up that center piece here, and you're going to sew right here back and forth. So you're gonna do a straight stitch, but I'm gonna go back stitch, straight back stitch so it doesn't fall, because that's gonna be right there. That's gonna be your center piece here. Then we're gonna grab our bottom pieces. So this is our back bottom. So I'm gonna grab that, and I'm gonna put in a basting stitch here at the top to gather it. So I'm gonna mark my center. I like to have that center mark so when I gather, I can know where my center is. And I'm also going to grab the bottom piece here, and you know that this is the center here, but I'm going to put in a gathering stitch to gather this to fit here, and then gather this side also to fit there, because this is gonna be gathered here. So I'm gonna go over there to my sewing machine, put in a gathering stitch at the top of both of the bottom ruffles. Remember that back stitching. There's the front, and I wanted to make sure that I couldn't see any of the serge edge there. This will get sewn, so, and that top will also get sewn, so you won't be able to see it, but I just wanted to make sure that you couldn't see it there. Now for the gathering, I'm gonna go the longest length on my stitch, and I'm actually gonna up my tension a little bit so it kind of gathers it for me. Leave a long tail at the beginning and then go. I want to do two different threads, so that will be my one side, and then I'm gonna go again and go to the other side. Yo, how much time do you spend sewing, and how much time do you spend being sidetracked on the interwebs when you're trying to sew? That is my problem. Okay, so now I've got my front here sewn together. I've got the bottom piece here gathered a little bit. Make sure you're doing the right side. This is the right side. And we're going to gather it to fit our bodice. So I'm gonna pull on this basting stitch here and make sure that it fits right there, and then make sure that it's all nice and even. You want it to be pretty good. And if you have a hard time with gathers, doing two lines of stitching might help, like a basting stitch when you're doing this. It might help. Do you see how upping that tension gathered the fabric a little bit already? So it helped me, and it also helps to keep it a little bit more even. Okay, so then I'm going to sew them together. I'm gonna flip this right on top. I'm gonna start here at the point and match that up here. And then I'm gonna sew down the side. And because I already serged the edge and I did a white thread, I wanna make sure that none of that thread is as visible after I sew it. So we're gonna go and sew with a straight stitch, but again, I wanna make sure that I sew enough inside the seam allowance that I'm not gonna see that thread from the outside. That is the only downside of doing the serging method, like serging first and then sewing, because then it's like you have to be very careful that you can't see that serge edge on the outside. You shouldn't be able to because there is a seam allowance, but you know, sometimes things happen, so you want to make sure to check that. All right, then we're gonna go sew, and see, that will be our front bodice. It will look just like this. All right, so then I'm gonna put that one aside because I'm gonna go sew that, but at the same time, I'm gonna attach my ruffle to the back bodice. This is my sleeve, not my back bodice. This is my other sleeve, also not my back bodice. Here's my back bodice. Let's find the right side. This is the right side. And we're gonna gather that to fit. This is my whole thought process when it comes to right side, wrong side of the fabric. If you're so close up and you can't tell which one's the right side and the wrong side of the fabric, don't worry, somebody from far away will not be able to tell. So, and if they can, then good for them. They get a cookie. Well, I don't know where they'll get a cookie from, because it won't be from me. I will have already eaten the cookie, if I have a cookie. All right, we're gonna attach that right sides together. Make sure you return that tension back to its normal and the stitch length back to its normal stitch length. All right, I don't know why my fabric decided to fold over as I'm trying to sew it, but I'm glad I noticed it so I can fix it. I'm just going to pull that thread. Actually, I'm gonna go right here at the end, not the end, but where I started doing it. Or I could pull it all the way from the end, but I did, it is tied right there. So let's just cut somewhere right here. And I still have no seam rippers. So we just need to cut it with my snips. Start over and do not get caught again. Dim fabric. All right, here we go. All right, now I have my pin here where my front bodice is supposed to meet that front top right there. So we're gonna go all the way down to that pin right here. We're going kind of going up. Center pin, remove that pin, and then lift up my foot, fix the fabric, and turn a little bit going down towards the other side. Oh my goodness, my fabric folded again. What is going on here? This fabric is trying to sabotage me. All right, let's look at it and make sure it looks good. It does. It looks good in the center. It looks good everywhere. We can move on to the back. Alrighty, so I've got my front. Oh, I didn't steam it. You want to steam those seams towards the bodice or steam them open. So here's my back, here's my front. So we're gonna grab them and we're gonna face them right sides together. So I'm just gonna lay my front down and then my back, and then lift my front right on top. So I'm gonna match up those seams on the shoulders and then on the sides, and we're going to sew them together. All right, so sew those sides together and the shoulders. Ooh. And then I'm gonna grab my sleeve and I'm folding it right sides together, so make sure you're using the correct, I wanna make sure that they're facing, yeah. So this is the right side, so yeah. So right side here, and they have to be opposite each other. Okay, because if not, then they're wrong. And when I go to attach it, I'm gonna be really upset. Okay, and what I'm gonna do is I'm going to attach my sleeve all the way down until that mark. And I had a mark on here, but when I went to sew the sides, I ate that mark. So I gotta mark it again. So here's the end, because we're gonna have a split hem at the end. So that's why we have to have that mark right there, because we're gonna sew all the way down, stop there, and do a back stitch. We are also going to prep our cuffs. So I grabbed my cuff and I folded it wrong sides together and I gave it a memory crease. Now I'm gonna open them up and fold them right sides together here. Now, if you want like a little tassel so you can tie them together and it looks cute, I've made tassels before, and I don't know if I want a whole tassel, if I just want like a little something, or if I want to just leave it. And I was thinking, I have all these different floss, all these, and so from projects, cross-stitch projects from the past that I have or may not have finished. So you can use some of these to create a little tie. Depends on how long you want it, right? So you would put one on each side, so that's like a little tie, and then you can like tie it and have a little tie. So I'm not sure if I want to do the ties or leave it and then come back and do the ties later if I figure out how I want to do them. Because what you would do is you would sew this together here. You would put that tie in here. You would sew this two sides together, right sides together. And then when you would flip it, you would have that little tie hanging there. And that would be your sleeve cuff. And then you would have the same from the other side. And then you could tie them together here. And you would have like a little tassel. And then you can make a little tassel to go along with it. So I don't know if I want to go ahead and make the tie, like use this and make a tie, or I'm not sure. The thing is, I want to go ahead and work on it. I don't want to leave it without anything. Comment below and let me know what you think. I'm going to do 3 strands. How long do I want them to be? And you asked me why 3 strands, because 3 strands means I can braid it and make it into like a braided tie. Anyway, I'm gonna cut this floss piece in half. This is why my videos end up so long, because I chat away. Comment below and let me know what you think. Should I stop chatting and just get to it, right? All right, so now I'm gonna do it in thirds. All right, and I'm gonna trap it in there as I face it right sides together. So I'm gonna sew it right there. Then I'm gonna do that for all 3 of them. I mean 4 of them. And as you can tell, I have not serged the edges of this, so I'm gonna sew a straight stitch and then serge it, because I forgot to serge the cuffs. All right, let's go sew all those things up. Here on this one, I want to back stitch so that way I can trap those ties in there really nicely. Remember to always back stitch too when you're sewing all the pieces together. Now, what they want you to do is open up this seam allowance here, and you can go ahead and go over there and steam it if you want to, because we're going to top stitch this open to create that split hem here. So we're going to flip it open and top stitch it. Get to the top here, bring up your foot, turn. I like to do a little back stitching. And then go to the other side and flip that out again, and then go down and top stitch. And that gives me a little split hem here at the sleeve, at the bottom of the sleeve. And this is where the cuff is gonna go, and then you're gonna have like the tie that ties them together here. All right, I had to reluctantly take a break for the day, and now I'm back to sewing this top. I'm so excited. I want to finish this so badly. So we're gonna do that. We can start with the cuff, and what I'm gonna do is, here are my my cuffs. You know, I sewed up the little piece here, and so what you want to do is you want to cut a little trim here in the corner, so when you turn it, it turns all nice and straight. So you can kind of trim this a little bit here in the corner and then flip it around, and you've got your cuff with my little cute little things right here. There we go. And then I'm just gonna attach that to my, over here to my sleeve. Okay, here we go again. I started to figure this out, and then I realized I didn't really figure it out. But anyway, we've got the cuffs, and because I didn't want the cuff seam to show, the edge, I didn't want to just serge it and for the edge to show, I went ahead and tucked all the insides in, all the seams in, and just folded it in like a ½ inch here. So then that way when I go to put it on my sleeves, you don't see any of the serge edge. You'll see the serge edge on this side, which I wish I would have done it a different color, but it's okay. It's not that big of a deal. I'll survive, I'll be fine. So what I'm gonna do now is, like I said, I folded those edges in, so now I'm gonna fit it right over my cuff. But the first thing I did is I put in a gathering stitch, a long basting stitch, and I just cut the threads. And I'm gonna gather that sleeve to fit. No, I did not cut the threads. Okay, I gotta gather the bottom of the sleeve to fit. I just put in a long basting stitch on it, and we're just gonna gather it the width of the cuff. Probably should have marked where my center of my sleeve is first. I did not do that, but that would have helped me kind of get it nice and even. Make sure it's the width, and then we're gonna fit this right in there, and then we're just gonna top stitch it closed. See, you won't be able to see that seam, that the edge from either angle. You're just tucking it in there. All right, since I like to do everything at the same time, I'm also going to go to my sleeve, and I'm going to fit my sleeve right into my bodice. So I'm going to turn my bodice inside out, and I'm going to fit that sleeve right into that bodice to attach it. As you can tell, I guess I was supposed to put a gathering stitch on my sleeve, and I didn't, because my sleeve is a lot bigger than my arm side. That means I gotta put in a gathering stitch. I must have missed that step on the steps. So let's go put that gathering stitch around the sleeve and go ahead and finish up those cuffs while we're at it. We could also work on our hem if you want to hem right now. That's the last thing to do, so you can do that at the last. It's up to you. All right, I tied up my cuffs, and they look so cute with a little extra oomph right there with the little ties or whatever. So they do look really cute for improvising the ties. All right, we're gonna grab the bodice now, and we are going to go ahead and attach our inset sleeves. We're almost done. We just need neckline and hem after this. And then we're gonna fit our sleeve right into that arm side area here and attach right sides together. So match up that armpit area and then go all the way around. Oh, hopefully, yeah, you gathered. I put in those gathering stitches and make sure that it fits, the sleeve fits in there correctly, the gathers are evenly gathered, and then we're just attaching right sides together. All right, time for neck binding. Scary. Okay, it's not gonna be scary. We can do this. Let's do it. All right, so we're gonna start with our binding, and our binding I have folded wrong sides together and created, you know, my little binding here. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start on the back, but I'm gonna just kind of leave about an inch or two in the back where I'll meet the back together later once I've sewn it all together. And we're gonna go around the neckline, matching right sides together, all around the top of the neckline, the raw edges together. All right, we get here to the front, right where we get to where that V-neck is here, we're going to mark that. Mark it with something you can see it. And then we're gonna mark about a half an inch or quarter inch actually away from that line. So you've got your two lines right there. I hope you can see them. We've got one line right over the center and then another one right next to it. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna fold up and sew them together, okay? And then we're gonna fold that over and continue to top stitch up the side. So we're gonna top stitch down, over on top of that, fold it here, and then continue to top stitch up the side, at the top. So we're gonna go to my machine and I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna do that there. All right, so we start from the top and we go all the way down to the neckline. When we get to the neckline here, we're gonna draw a line at the neckline and then a line right next to it. And then we're gonna fold it up. And we're going to stitch, move that over and stitch it together. We're gonna flip that over and we're gonna finish up sewing that up. Make sure your fabric is not folded. So we go down to the V, we're just stitching that down, pick up and go towards the other side. And keep going all the way down. Where these two will overlap, I'm gonna fold this one and overlap it right on top. And I'm gonna trim this other one that's longer here, just so it'll match right up to that. Now we're gonna fold this all the way to the inside and top stitch. Here at the neckline, we stop there, we lift up our foot, leave our needle down, and then we turn towards the other side. All right, last step is to hem. So I folded my hem about an inch, and then I'm just gonna go all the way around. Oh, make sure your bobbin did not run out of thread and you didn't just go all the way around for nothing. I literally sewed like 4 inches. All right, let me go finish this and then I'll show you what it looks like. All right, friends, we are finished with this beautiful top. I think it's super cute. The V-neck is a little low, but not too low if you like it. I like to wear a little under top with it just because I like a little bit of extra coverage. Okay, one thing I will say, this being a double gauze has kind of stretched out a little bit while I've sewn it. So I'm going to go give it a wash and everything, and it should all come right back to where it's supposed to be. But even so, I think it looks so adorable. I love the little ties here, so cute. Next time I will definitely grab something that it's more sturdy than just some floss. I think it looks adorable. I love it. Again, for size reference, I made a size medium, which is the size I fit into. So if you don't like things to be a little bit oversized, I would size down. Though I love this fit that's a little bit oversized. That's just because that's my style. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please comment, like, share, subscribe if you haven't. Let me know if you're going to sew this stuff up, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.